Hello, everyone. When I first came to UMR, I realized that I was constantly in the midst of geniuses. I saw people around me who fell in love with the idea of chiral centers. I saw people who started to learn about Hooke's law and realized what their passion was. I saw people who saw derivatives and didn't just see a flurry of variables and numbers, but rather a work of art. These people inspire me constantly, but just as much as they inspire me, they scared me a lot too. Because they're in their strengths, in their passions, and in their adequacies, I found a sense of inadequacy. Over the past 4 years, I went on an unintentional journey of self-discovery. And over my capstone, I worked to stop molding myself into the person that I thought I had to be and start growing into the person I felt I was meant to be. My name is Rithi Punyamurthula, and the title of my capstone is Everything You Need is Within You, Finding Strength Within Ambiguity. Over the course of this year, I learned 2 vital lessons which I believe are going to continue to ground me over the next years. Number 1 was finding balance within myself and my environment, and number 2 was embracing my inner fire. I was able to do this through 3 activities. I took 2 courses through the University of Minnesota Twin Cities Center of Spirituality and Healing. I took a Ayurvedic class, which is an Indian medicine class. I also took a traditional Tibetan medicine class. And lastly, I had the opportunity to work with HealthCore, which is an amazing living learning community on campus. I served as a community assistant over the past 2 years. So my first lesson was the idea of finding balance within myself. And this was very vital to me because it allowed me to stop finding comparisons within myself and the amazing people around me. Now, the way I started to learn about this was understanding the values and the way traditional medicine is founded. So in westernized medicine, we see healing as more of a group specialty. So it's almost like a blanket statement placed over a group of people. And with this, I think it's really interesting, but it's a great way to do it in the United States, I think, but also it has some flaws when we believe that one way of healing is going to be the way that everyone is able to heal. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just cross that bridge when we get to it. It's much more of a cause and effect relationship. On the other side of the spectrum, we have traditional medicine, and traditional medicine is focused more on the individual. Within traditional medicine, the very first thing that you want to do is understand your own constitution. And your constitution is either physical, it can be spiritual, or it could be mental. And all of those different aspects are completely different between every single one of you. So all of us in this room have completely different constitutions, which is pretty cool if you think about it. And we use that as a way of healing. But the one thing that stays the same between all of us is that according to traditional medicine, we have a very deep connection with the universe. Our constitutions are made up of elements that we see in Mother Nature. In Ayurvedic medicine, there are 3 elements. There is fire, there is air, and there is water. And to find balance within them, when you find balance within them, you're able to live a more fulfilling life. So some people might have a very nice balance between these 3 elements, like a completely perfect balance. Some people might have one of their elements be a lot higher than the other 2, and some people might just not have one element at all. Now, when I started to think about how I could start to balance my own life, I, for one, actually have just 2 elements, not all 3. I immediately thought, that means that I have to start to gain that other element. But in reality, in traditional medicine, you are never trying to work towards someone that you are not. You're never trying to gain another element. You're never trying to lessen one of your elements. You're just naturally who you are and always just trying to grow into a better version of yourself. This was a vital turning point in my journey because it made me realize that if an entire culture, if an entire medical philosophy is able to be based on prioritizing the individual, then so can I. This led me to my next lesson, which was embracing my inner fire. So in traditional medicine, there's a term called Agni. And Agni means your inner fire or drive in life. And when this is in balance and when this is applicable in your life, you live with a lot of purpose. And when it's when you haven't discovered it just yet, you definitely feel a little bit lost. And I can speak from experience because I definitely felt lost because I had not found my fire at first. And I was seeing all these incredible people around me who were falling in love with all these different aspects. And I was like, gosh, like, when's that going to happen for me? But the way I ended up trying to find it was what was recommended to me by my classes. I learned to meditate. Every morning I meditate on mantras, and what I choose to meditate on is a saying, everything you need is already within you. And that reminds me that I don't need to look externally for fulfillment, for happiness. I can find that within myself. Journaling was another vital part of my journey. It allowed me to kind of sort out my feelings and thoughts and understand what I liked and disliked, what I got a lot of energy out of, and what things drained a lot of that energy out of me. This was really helpful because it allowed me to live my life more purposefully. And mindfulness is something that I find the most challenging amongst these. It's a way of life. You're supposed to constantly live in the moment. And that was really hard for me because, especially in our culture, we're always go, 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 like thinking 10 steps ahead. But I do find that every now, like, I spend a lot more time living in the moment and taking as much energy out of the little things as I do the big things. So with this, I found that actually my fire was not based on an occupation. My fire was not based on a certain class. Instead, it was based on these values which I choose to live my life every day. These are spreading kindness, providing a sense of safety amongst myself and in my surroundings, and reminding others and myself of their own self-worth. I think these aspects were vital, and I think the way I'd like to think of it is there are certain parts in my life where I don't really enjoy being in, like, for example, really hard science classes. Like organic chemistry was really hard for me, and physics was really draining for me. But by understanding these aspects and understanding that inner fire, I was able to kind of focus on that energy and know that I'm going to be guided out of that path. I was able to use this also a lot through Health Corps. This was an amazing opportunity for me because all those lessons I learned, I was able to visualize and see right in front of me. I used the idea of safety, the idea of spreading kindness, and the idea of providing an avenue of self-worth within Health Corps, and I was able to see students grow, develop, and support each other in ways that I wasn't expecting whatsoever. Health Corps was amazing because, so actually a couple days ago, they came up to me and were all saying how much I've helped them. And I honestly, genuinely believe that without Health Corps, I would not be who I am today. So I think that they've definitely helped guide me in a way that I was not expecting. But in reflection, I realized that through this fire, through my passion with Health Corps, through my passion of these inner fires, that provides enough light in my life for me to be guided through ambiguity. Life is always going to throw anxieties my way. Life is always going to throw unknowns, and like you're never going to know what's going to happen. But as long as I'm able to understand who I am, that's one constant that I'll be able to hold on to and allow to like lead the way. And actually, the way that this is leading me in the future is I've accepted a position with Teach for America in Milwaukee. Teach for America is a nonprofit organization which is founded on the idea of fighting for educational equity. I'll be teaching kindergarten, so I'm very, very excited for this opportunity, especially because I think one thing that's really exciting for me is that I look at Health Corps, I look at these students, and I see the end results. I see people who have come from diverse really hard backgrounds and who are succeeding today. So it's going to be really challenging, really exciting, and I think I'm going to grow a lot from taking that timeline back to the beginning. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. I would like to say thank you. Thank you to Professor Shana Altrichter for everything you've done. You've provided such a safe place for me to come to you and just panic. Thank you to Health Corps, Robert Reese and Chancellor Carroll for founding the program, the students of Health Corps for providing me enough motivation to understand who I am as an individual, to Kritika and to Sam for always being a shoulder to lean on. I'd like to thank Richard. He is the most wonderful person I think I've ever met, and he's helped me so much. And yes, and also I skipped Grace. Oh my gosh, sorry, Grace. I'd like to thank Grace for always being a light in my life and a light in literally everyone else she's ever met. Faculty and staff and family and friends, all of you in this room, first of all, thank you for coming. And all of you in this room have guided me, pushed me, pulled me in directions that have led me to this point right now in my life, standing in front of you, talking about what I've learned. And I can genuinely say that in this moment, I am happy, I am fulfilled, and I am proud of who I've become. So thank you all so very much. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Rithi, I know we've talked about this in our meetings together, but how do you foresee using some of these lessons that you've learned to reach and meet students through your Teach for America experience?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think one aspect that so I learned all these lessons now as a senior and junior in college. And I think it would be amazing for students who are 5 and 6 to be able to prioritize that in their lives just as much as academics. I think emotional intelligence is just as important as academic. And I think that's something that I definitely want to continue to pursue within that avenue. Yes, Jenny. Oh, yes, definitely. I think especially your freshman and your sophomore year, you come into college and you have this idea of what you want, and I don't think it ever turns out exactly what you planned. And I think a lot of these students, like everyone, goes through that kind of crisis mode. And I was lucky enough to at least be someone to help in that situation and to talk to them about my experience. When I came to the college, I thought I was going to be a surgeon, which did not happen. It's not going to happen. And I'm really happy about that. But it was like a very stubborn journey. I was really, really kind of mad at myself almost for a while, and it took a lot to accept that. But I think especially during this last year, I was able to come to terms with it and find that closure. So I think expressing my own journey, people learn the most, I think, through stories, and I'm able to share mine. Yes, Christina.
The past 2 years, you started on this path to, I almost want to call it the life of it.
Mm-hmm. I'm not quite. I wish. Yeah.
Practicing those mindful habits and whatnot. What is one piece of advice for a lot of first years in the room to those who want to get started on this journey of practicing that self-care and really being more aware in the moment?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that I learned was I think our lives, especially, I don't know if it's a United States thing, but we always talk about our big events or marriages and graduations and all those big events. But I think one thing that I would recommend, I know that I found a lot of fulfillment in, is taking into account your breakfasts, your lunches, your dinners, the coffee shop stranger conversations, those little things that really make up your life, and just taking all the energy out of that as you can, I think, is a really interesting and super easy way, I think, to at least start with the idea of mindfulness. Anybody else? Yes, Perry.
Yes, I was just asking for, in your time working in health corps and contributing to those 3 areas you talked about in your life, can you give us some examples of how you put or injected those into the community?
Yeah.
Programming, was it through intentional conversations?
Most of them were personal conversations. I think I've said this before, but I think the best way to teach, the best way to learn is by telling stories, being vulnerable, sharing personal details, not too personal, but enough. But I think that's what I genuinely try to do. I schedule out time in my calendar to make sure students have the opportunity to meet with me. I also tried to every week I would try to, and I kind of fell apart this past semester, but I tried to put little post-it notes on everyone's door with little meditation, mantras, things that would bring positivity into people's lives. And I think just living through example too is important. I think as long as you're able to find that within you, people can see that, and people genuinely, I don't know, I've had a lot of people just ask what's your journey? Tell me about yourself. And I think if you take full advantage of that, you can accomplish a lot. Anybody else? Thank you so much.